Good evening and welcome back to the best college talk show on television. We're back for another season. I'm here with author George Moufarrej. He's the author of the book Sexual Euphoria. We're going to talk about the book, the Anthony Weiner political scandal, and a little bit more. You don't want to miss it. This is CU at USC. Welcome back to CU at USC. I'm your host, Callum Hayes. I'll be with you every Thursday night this semester, but we have a very special guest for our first show. Author, USC alumni, George Moufarrej. And, sir, why don't you just tell us about you're an alum of USC. What did you study while you were here?
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah. When I was at USC, I studied business and administration, and my emphasis was entrepreneurship.
Okay, so you're an entrepreneur. I guess that leads me right into the big question is, how does that then lead into a book called Sexual Euphoria? How do those two tie in? I mean, obviously, you know, you're making money and it's business, but it still seems like there's not a direct connection there.
Yeah. Because of the entrepreneurship classes I took, I got the idea to be enterprising, to start my own business. So after researching and trying different businesses, I decided to be a writer.
Okay.
And I found out that from my entrepreneurship classes, when you do a business, you want to fulfill a demand for something.
Yeah.
And I found out that there was a demand that people wanted to know more about their how to have happier relationships, how to have a happier sex life. And that's why I did that book.
Just kind of went from there. So do you ever wish that you'd done more writing in school, or has it kind of been okay? You haven't needed the...
I did a lot of writing in the English classes I had to take. Okay. So that was satisfying.
You got enough experience to write the book then. But it kind of seems like, you know, you said that people want this information on, you know, how to have happier relationships, how to have more healthier sex lives. But it does still seem a little bit like a taboo subject for us, right? It seems like we're all still a little scared to talk about it. Do you think that has impacted our reaction to this, you know, the Anthony Weiner Sexting scandal? Because I know that, you know, we wanted to talk about that, and we had a lot of people had a negative reaction to that, right? He lost votes because he was sending text messages. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, first of all, to answer your question, many people view sex as a taboo subject. And that's why many people don't have the proper ideas about sex and how to have happy relationships. And that's why I did that book.
Yeah.
For Anthony Weiner, the reason people are fascinated by him and he gets all this publicity is because he is ruining himself. His career, his marriage, his social life, and his respect among his peers, involuntarily. This is an intelligent person that's respected, that has it all, has had a successful career, and involuntarily, even though he doesn't want to, he's ruining all this because of his sexual addiction.
You think he can't, that you actually think that he does have that sexual addiction, that's fueling this?
He has a sexual addiction, and that's why involuntarily he's ruining himself. And the reason he has that sexual addiction, like many people that have a sexual addiction, is because he resorts to excessive sex to get rid of his to deal with his stress, just as an alcoholic would resort to excessive alcohol to deal with the stress. Likewise, he resorts to excessive sex to deal with that stress.
Okay, and it struck me that when this scandal happened, when these came out, that people were more upset that he even sent the photos than they were that they were to someone other than his wife, right? To me, it seemed like people, they were less concerned with his marriage and more concerned with the way he was using his phone and sending these things. You know, and then you said that he'd hurt his social standing, right, with his friends and his peers and all that. Why do you think that that this has had such a negative impact? Why do we view things like, quote, sexting in such a negative light?
They view sexting in a negative light when a person is married and sending it to someone other than his spouse, because they view it as a form of cheating.
Okay.
Because he's showing affection to someone other than his spouse, and if he was a politician, if he was a movie star or a sports celebrity, they wouldn't make a big deal about it. Like, because he's a politician, they're making a big deal about it. Politicians usually get in trouble for such stuff. That's why they're making a big deal about it.
Okay, and then, I mean, that kind of leads into, this isn't something that would have been possible 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Him sending those photos wouldn't have even have been a possibility. Do you think technology and how much easier it is for all of us to connect all the time and to send these photos, do you think that's changed our relationships and our view on sex a little bit?
Yeah, technology has definitely changed people's relationships and the way they do dating. Now it's easier to date than before, because people can find many potential mates on online dating sites, and they can find someone that's compatible with them a lot easier than before, than going to a bar. Also, being able to text and use social media network also changed the way people date. It made it a lot easier. Also, online dating sites for married people changed the way people react to married people dating. It's more acceptable than before.
So, and do you think, I mean, I guess the answer to that, for the married people, obviously none of us would really think that's a great idea. But do you think something like online dating as a whole is good? Do you think it's been progress? You think that it's something that's, been productive for all of us?
Yeah, I think online dating has made dating a lot easier. So it brought progress to the dating arena.
Okay, do you think there's a risk there, though, that, as everything becomes more online, right? I only talk to you through a computer. I only talk to you through a phone, whatever it is. Do you think that all of a sudden you have more scandals like this, where people are sending photos, because that's how they get to know each other, I guess, instead of, like you said, going to the bar and you meet someone and maybe you take them home or you don't or whatever, but no one knows. Do you think there's a risk there with online?
Yeah, with online dating, there's a greater exposure. More people would find out about it easier than if a person was to go to a local bar and have a relationship.
Okay, and going back to just to kind of wrap up Mr. Weiner here, terrible phrasing. Do you think that, there was the original scandal and then there was the second one while he was running for office again just this past spring and summer? Do you think that, as a whole we would have been okay with the first one, right? Do you think that, he messed up the first time and if he'd apologized and it never happened again, we would have been okay? Do you think it was kind of we couldn't get over it, or was it really just the repeat kind of idea?
I think when he apologized for the first one and he was forced to resign his office because of it, and then he said he was getting treatment for sexual addiction, I think people did forgive him, because when he ran for mayor, he was way high up on the polls.
Well.
He was almost going to win. So when the second scandal broke out, then people doubted that he has the ability to hold office, because he did the same mistake again. That means that he wasn't healed of his sexual addiction. If there's this person that cannot handle stress and he resorts to excessive sex to handle it, how could he hold the office as mayor of New York? That's what people began to think.
I guess that's a good point, that people would think that he was going to keep going back to that if that was his problem. But I guess it just strikes me that, we had a president who, he didn't send photos, right, but he did more than that. And we kind of forgave him, and now Bill Clinton will go out and he'll campaign and everyone thinks it's great. And I guess it just strikes me as a little odd that we forgive the actual act, right? We forgive Bill Clinton actually physically cheating on his wife, but when it's technology, we seem to have this weird relationship with it that we can't seem to let it go. I guess to me it just seems like that's a little skewed, how our perceptions of our personal interactions are so much different than, if I were to text you or if I were to send you something online.
Right. I think Bill Clinton was forgiven because he wasn't running for office when the Monica Lewinsky case broke out. He was holding office, and they tried to impeach him, but they weren't successful because they determined that such an action for a person with such an office wasn't necessary. So we forgave him because he continued his term, and when it happened it was in the middle of his term. But with Weiner, he's running for office, so that's a big strike against him.
It's different there. Clinton already had it.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, kind of moving on to the book as a whole. What inspired? You said that you wanted people to have healthier sexual relationships and healthier lives. But was that really the motivation for this book? Did you just see that there was a spot where you could help improve people's lives and fill a marketplace?
Yeah. When I did my research, I found out that 2/3 of women don't orgasm regularly during sex. So, and many relationships, like 50% of marriages, over 50% of marriages, end because of poor sex life.
Really?
Yeah. So I decided that there was a great need, a great niche for such a topic, and that's why I wrote it about such a topic.
Okay. How do you find numbers like that out? I mean, is that kind of information just floating around, or did you really go talk to people or find it through other places?
I did talk to some researchers. Also, there are many surveys and research studies that have been done that I refer to. And the main big three research studies that were done were Masters and Johnson, Alfred Kinsey, and Shearhide.
Okay, and they showed that there was that so much of divorce was happening because of lack of sexual satisfaction?
Other studies that were done.
Okay.
There was a survey done by people. It was called Sex in America. It had a lot of statistics also.
Okay, I mean, was there anything else that just kind of shocked you when you looked at that? Because, I mean, to me, those numbers are a little shocking.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you read that you just kind of went, wow?
Yeah. Another thing that surprised me was that 50% of married women have cheated at least once.
Really?
Yeah. And 60% of married men have cheated at least once. And 80% of marriages have at least one spouse that has cheated.
That's crazy. We are going to come back. I don't know how you walk away from a stat like that. We got to go to break. We come back, we're going to keep talking about some of these numbers because that just blew my mind. We'll talk a little bit more about the book as well. So stick around. That's crazy. 80% of marriages have had someone cheat.
Sorry.
That 80% of marriages have had someone cheat?
Yeah.
That is...
Bored again?
Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe.
Turn on the TV.
Welcome back to CU at USC. Going to get you a little contact info before we keep going with the interview. If you want to get us on Facebook or Twitter, we don't do MySpace, I'm sorry. It's CU at, it's AT USC, and then our email, it's on the bottom of the screen there, CU this guy, TrojanVision.com. So, two different ones. The email, CU, just the symbol. Then Facebook and Twitter, CU at AT USC. Fortunately, I'm not giving you my personal email. That's going to stay private. But we are going to air some more dirty laundry here, some more statistics. I guess, going back, I'm blown away by the fact that the numbers are that close on men and women cheating in relationships. Because I feel like what I've been told my entire life by the media, or whoever it is that men cheat, right? That you say 60% of men have cheated in their marriage, which is a very high number. But half of women have cheated. And those numbers are much closer than I would have expected, I guess. Was that something that surprised you?
That's a fact that many people have noticed. And I think in the October issue of Glamour, they're going to quote me about that issue. And the reason why the numbers of women cheating has increased and it's getting very close to men, it's because of technology. Because it's easier, there's online married dating sites, so it's easier for women to find a person to cheat with than before. At first, because the woman usually waits for the man to approach her, so it's more difficult. In the past, it was more difficult for the woman to find someone to cheat with, because she would have to wait for someone to approach her, and she was reluctant to make it obvious that she wanted to cheat, because some people would label her a whore or a slut. But now with online dating, online married dating, she can find more partners than she needs. So her problem is deciding which one to cheat with.
Anyone she's not married to is more partners than she needs, but that may just be me. How long did it take you to write the book? How much time did you spend on the whole process?
It took me like 2 years.
Wow.
Because I did 3 drafts before I completed the final draft.
And was it something where, have you heard any stories of people reading it and just kind of going like, people have read the book and it's really impacted them, it's helped that, change, because that's why you wrote it, because you wanted people to have these healthier relationships. Have you heard from people or gotten letters from of people saying you really helped me?
The book has helped many people in their relationships and their sex life. It has made the relationships happier and their sex life happier. And in my book, I address the issue how people can have happier relationships and have relationships that last indefinitely by improving their sex life. Okay. And as a matter of fact, the book was an Amazon bestseller in January.
Wow!
Because so many people liked it.
You don't have to give all the secrets away, obviously, but what are some of the kind of basic things people can do to make their relationships healthier? What are some things you've suggested to really help people keep their marriage going?
Okay. In order for people to make their relationships healthier, one major factor I talked about was communication. They need to communicate in their relationships about everything, including in their sex life. Many people, especially when they're having sex, they fail to communicate, so they don't know how to satisfy each other. Another issue that I discussed about in my book was that in order to have happy relationships, people should get rid of negative emotions like hatred, jealousy, resentment that they might have towards their spouse, and they should have more positive emotions like love and affection towards their spouse. That way they have a happier sex life and a happier relationship. And other issues that I talked about in my book that are important for a couple's sex life, like I talk about over 50 sexual positions are illustrated in the book, for the couple to add variety to their sex life. Also, I talk about the issue of foreplay. Many couples just spend 2 minutes on foreplay, and based on my research, I found that usually they spend so much time because that's the amount of time it takes a man to get an erection. But women need at least 15 to 20 minutes of foreplay for them to be fully aroused. So the couple should spend 20 minutes on foreplay to have a happy and successful sexual encounter to the maximum degree. And another topic that I talk about in the book that's important was that 2/3 of women don't orgasm regularly because of sex, and that was because the clitoris doesn't receive proper stimulation during sex.
Yeah.
So I described the different ways the couple could utilize to have the woman receive proper clitoris stimulation during sex.
Okay, and you know, at the start there, you talked about how couples don't communicate well, right? There's not good communication, right? And I would assume that extends past where we usually think it does, and that couples fight because they misunderstood who was paying the bills or whatever. But it also extends to their sex lives. And why do you think that we struggle to communicate things like that with our partners? Why? Of all people, it feels like they should be the one we can share that with. Why do you think that we're still struggling to express ourselves?
Yeah, many people struggle to communicate with their partner because they have the mistaken notion that their partner will know, their partner will read their mind and know what to do. It's not just about sex, that there's lack of communication in regards to finances between the couple. About taking care of the children, the housekeeping, other issues. They assume that the other person will know. Another reason why there is a problem communicating is sometimes one partner is negative when another partner tries to, when a woman or a man tries to tell his partner that something, the other partner is sensitive and is sarcastic or refuses those suggestions. So that's another reason. They're afraid of hurting the partner. They're afraid of getting criticized by the partner for communicating. So these reasons cause lack of communication.
I mean, you said that someone will get sarcastic or they'll get, offended or whatever it is. But why is it that we get offended by those things? Why wouldn't our reaction be to want to give that partner what they're looking for, right? If you're married or you're together, right, you love that person, shouldn't the reaction, instead of being offended, to be, I want to give you what you're asking for? What is it about the way we grew up or society or whatever it is where our first reaction is to be sarcastic or offended?
Sometimes a person, his ego is hurt that he was given a remark, or sometimes the person has a proud ego. He's ashamed to show that he doesn't know or he did a mistake. So he tries to cover it up by lying, denial, or by counter-attacking his partner for making that remark.
Okay, and I know that, this is something where, you mentioned a couple of times that you wrote the book and the response has been there's things people just didn't know, right? That couples just aren't communicating well, they don't know how to have these sexually healthy relationships. And I can say that going through something like high school sex ed in this country, right, things like that, the conversation doesn't really seem to educate people. The things we're taught don't really seem to further the discussion. And how do you think we can really change the way we view these things in this country and really take steps forward?
Yeah, I think most people have inaccurate information about sex because they get the information from their friends or movies, and they're mostly inaccurate. And most people are embarrassed to talk about sex because they assume it comes natural. It's not something to be talked about. And they don't think it's something that could be learned, how to improve. They assume that it should just come by instinct. And that's why there's all that embarrassment and shyness about talking about this topic.
Did you find that people were getting a lot of bad information, misinformation, that we were reading the wrong things or seeing the wrong messages? I mean, did you get that a lot?
When I talked to different people, I found out that many people had misconceptions about the topic.
And what kind of misconceptions were there?
For example, many people didn't know that the woman needed proper clitoris stimulation for an orgasm. They assumed that just stimulating the vagina was enough for the woman to orgasm regularly during sex. And many people didn't know that there were different positions that could be taken during sex. They just assumed there was just the missionary position or the woman on top position to satisfy the sexual encounter.
Okay, and we touched on it a little bit earlier with you studying business and entrepreneurship and then writing this book, but that was kind of an unexpected jump. At least I think most people would see it as one. But growing up, did you I've talked a little bit about how there's that feeling of this being taboo. It's something we don't talk about. Did you experience that growing up, that
yeah,
it was something we don't talk about?
Many of my friends and my relatives were very religious, so to them sex was taboo. So it was something that shouldn't be discussed. It was something that happened natural.
Right, and going forward, if it's something that some people just don't want to talk about, whatever, what really would be your suggestions going forward to open this conversation up? To really get more people talking about it, right? I mean, I'm sure your book has all this advice and all these tips, but people have to be willing to go find that, right? And what would be your kind of closing argument for opening this conversation up?
Yeah, for people to feel free to talk about this topic, they should realize that sex is just like any other normal physiological function, like eating, like drinking. It's not something to be embarrassed about, and it's not something that comes naturally. A person needs to learn it just as he learns how to drive, just as he learns how to sew.
Okay, and couple of seconds left. Do you have any last second dating tips for me? Currently single in college. Got like one hot tip?
One hot tip
but
is when a person goes on a date, he shouldn't talk about his past lovers because that will turn off his date.
That seems like good advice to me. I guess hopefully I won't be single next time you see me. But thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast. We'll be back next Thursday. Same time, same place. I am Callum Hayes. This has been CU at USC. Fight on, and God bless.